This podcast is an extension of The Purple Door, a nonprofit organization serving 12 counties in South Texas. Our mission is to empower the community and those affected by domestic violence and sexual assault to transition to a safe and healthy environment. Disclaimer: this podcast discusses topics sensitive in nature. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. Hello and welcome back to the Beyond the Door podcast. I'm your host, Shelby Ledesma. I'm glad to be with you here today. We are joined by two special guests. Hi.
Hello.
Hi.
Who are you?
My name is Amanda. I'm a advocate here in Nueces County. I see clients, residential and non-residential. So
Wonderful.
So my name's Tanya Ramirez, and I am the residential services manager, and I operate out of the shelter for the facility.
Wonderful. Well, Amanda, Tanya, we're glad to have you with us today. As y'all can hear, residential is kind of our theme. So as a reminder, this is a safe space for tough conversations. We are going to talk about some of our residential life today, about what victims experience, and a little bit more about success. If you caught a little bit of that in our last episode, we're going to expand that a little bit more. So getting started, my first question for Amanda and Tanya: what brought you to this movement? And again, when I say movement, I mean movement to end violence. What brings you here?
So I guess I can go first. I think I wound it up here on accident. That's what I'll say. I originally, many years ago, decided that I was going to go to school, picked some kind of education for myself, and I thought I wanted to be an LCDC, and I started that path. And then when an opportunity came to get hours for school, it was originally it was the Women's Shelter of South Texas, and I started there, and then there was an opportunity to get my hours for school and work nights, and I was like, this is perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, let's make some money, get these hours. And then once I was in it, I just never left, and here I am many years later in a different role, and really passionate about what I'm doing and where I'm at. So it just happened.
Yeah, meant to be. That's great.
Very much so.
That's great. Amanda, what about you?
So actually, honestly, a couple of years ago, actually it's been a few years ago now, I had one of my best friends from high school. She had gotten murdered. It was due to domestic violence, and it really just, when something like that happens, it was such a great impact on, like me and my children and her son, and I didn't know, I knew something had to be done, but I didn't know what to do. And honestly, I wanted to start my own nonprofit. But once I started looking into it, I found, the Women's Shelter of South Texas at that moment. And that's when I applied. And then from there, I, of course, I got hired on, and then I started learning, all the different things that we offer here at the shelter. So, yeah.
And you stayed.
Yes, I stayed. Yes.
Well, also, that's great. You're finding your way in the movement, right? Unfortunately, through tragedy, but also being able to help. That's awesome. I think that can resonate with many people about, what do I do? And not that you have to go get a job, but, whatever that looks like, it's absolutely.
It was really important to me because I don't know, it was a lot, but I don't know. But I'm happy I'm here.
Yes. We're happy you're here. You
Definitely.
and Tanya pretty much hold that shelter, our residential shelter, down. So we appreciate you so much. So speaking on that, there's a lot of ideas I think people have, or maybe not too many ideas people have, about what it's like to be in a shelter. Mm-hmm. So from both of your perspectives, and you have lots of experience between the two of you, what is it like living in shelter? What is it really like? And I mean, dun dun. Go ahead, please.
So shelter is an experience. It's different every day. Sometimes it's slow paced, and sometimes it's fast paced. Sometimes It's emotional. Every day's different. So it's kind of a go with the flow kind of thing, and be prepared for whatever could happen in shelter. But I would say for the most part, shelter is people looking for some sort of assistance from us and for themselves, and we do our best to meet that need, whatever that looks like for that person. So it's interesting, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure. That's like the one thing, like whenever, you go into work, you just don't ever know like what's going to happen. You don't ever know what you're walking into.
Yes.
And, that's completely fine. I always say like, I'm leaving one house and going to the other house, like that. It is what it is. But, yeah, it's different, but that, I mean, like she said, you're going to have your days where, you're going to have your good days with clients, and clients are going to have their, not so good days, but that's the reason why we're there,
Absolutely. I think we talk about this in our different areas of like human service, like what we provide as an agency, what our jobs are, is so fluid, right? Like you never know what you're going to get. Every situation's unique. And I know you both really take care to look at that, and we really try to do that here too, right? It's never the same. Even today, what is it? Groceries are out, and so it's how are we gonna get groceries later? Like,
how do we get 71 people fed today?
Yes,
to feed the people.
Right. So it looks like an actual trip into the store, not a curbside. And it is. It's just we go with it. We figure it out and do the best that we can, and that's just kind of a typical day.
Yeah, absolutely. We never know. And how the program works, and I'd love for you both to kind of give a little insight into that. But we look at, for our safe shelter, for all of those survivors who need that place to stay, it's that imminent danger component, right? For that specific safe shelter service, looking at 65 bed spaces ish for residents, 3 meals a day, 2 snacks, bedding, hygiene, all that stuff. So y'all may see us asking on social media for things like that, because we are, how do you all say it? A pass through.
Yeah.
Right? Like it comes to
We're
us.
the stepping stone.
Yes, for sure.
Beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure.
exactly.
Definitely.
So really just getting people what they need. I know we were speaking about it earlier. So, I mean, what can you add to that? How does the program work? And do we have a 90-day program for residents to go through?
Right. So we try to keep the capacity number at 65. Of course, sometimes that's not how it works, and we'll go above that number if needed. Usually when somebody comes into our facility, we're screening and we're assessing that person knows what we're about, what our program consists of, what we can actually help with. We want to be really honest and straightforward with somebody as in regards to what we're looking at. We were typically a 90-day stay with anybody who comes in, and ideally we're working with those that are imminent or immediate danger. I think that sometimes we think shelter's the best fit for everybody right off the bat.
Okay.
Sometimes it's not, because remember, we're putting all these people into the same living area, and I just think of it as at home. Like, sometimes I don't like to live at home with the people I live with. So now think of 65 people that you don't know, you're not familiar with.
It's not easy.
And now let's throw some trauma in there, because whatever brought everybody into shelter with us, they're going through their own things. So that can flare up and look different for everybody. So we want to make sure that when people come into shelter, that we have a real program set forward, some expectations for us of what we can do for them, and how we can move forward. So ideally, we really want to help people that need that safety aspect. And if they're not really looking for that imminent or immediate danger safety aspect, then we're really looking at something more like safety planning, alternate housing opportunities, because sometimes it's the housing aspect that an individual's looking for.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we just want to make sure that we're personalizing what we're doing for individuals, and we're being really transparent about what we can do for people that come into our facility.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, Tanya, you have said this to me before in different groups, that shelter is not a pathway to housing.
Yeah.
And that I realize how that sounds. And when I first heard it, I was like, what?
Yeah.
But can you expand and
Sure.
Amanda add on to that concept a little bit?
So when I think about that, I think that we hear shelter and we say shelter is housing. They're
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
But that's not kind of what we're doing. What we're really doing is looking at getting somebody safe.
Okay.
So that's what shelter for us is safety. Then after that safety component is there's going to need a pathway into housing, but that's not us. Just because we're in shelter doesn't mean that we can offer you housing. What that means is we can get you out of that immediate danger, so
Right.
that way we can help you to find that pathway.
Gotcha.
So we're really looking at being transparent with that and make sure that people understand that, because I think that it's just the words that people use sometimes, and we think automatically that, oh, it's shelter, so you'll have somewhere to live, you're going to have placement, you're going to have a home. And sometimes that's a really hard truth to tell somebody.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that they're able to make that decision before they decide to come into shelter with us.
Yeah, that's great. Amanda, how is that working with the survivors you serve?
So when they come see me for case management, when they first get on, I'll ask them, like, hey, are you on the housing waiting list? And if not, let's try to, if that's something they're okay with, we go ahead and we get them put on the waiting list. But, I'm sure just like in every other city, these waiting lists can be really long. They go
Yeah.
by a point system or whatever. So we'll go through that thoroughly and see, what they qualify for, what they don't, to make sure that they cross off the correct things. And then we also have around Nueces County and other areas as well, affordable housing or income-based housing,
Yeah,
where
subsidized.
they're independently owned, and we can get on those waiting lists as well. But we do have to be realistic with the client and be like, hey, you might not get this in the next month, or
Yeah.
we just have to be realistic. I don't want to paint a pretty picture and let them down. They're already going through it, but
Yes.
like that's the main thing. Like I want to be as realistic as I can with you, and then we'll just work through it and then kind of go from there.
Right, assisting and working through those challenges, right?
Yeah.
Definitely.
It's not a perfect system.
No.
Definitely not. And I think that I think it's a shocker when clients first come into shelter to hear that, right? Because I wish that we had the capacity to say, hey, we can give you a pathway to housing. We are going to give you somewhere to live after, your 90 days is up and it's guaranteed, but we're not in that position. And I think that it takes a moment to process that sometimes when somebody comes in for shelter services.
Sure.
But then knowing that there are some other resources out there, that there are other channels that we can tap into, it feels better than to feel lied to. So I think that that's really important,
That's a good
especially
point.
somebody who's experiencing, some different things like domestic violence or sexual assault. Sometimes you feel like you're lied to all the time, or you're not getting the help that you need,
Yeah,
or
that's fair.
it feels like every day's a hurdle, and we want to make sure that we're not the hurdle. We're just saying what the truth is, and sometimes it's hard to accept, but it is where we're at.
Where we're at,
Yeah.
right? That's what we can do. I think that's such a great way to look at it, and like the transparency is what we're here for, and the support. But I know we talk about this in our trainings and things, but like we as an agency, we as individual people, like we can't fix it.
Right.
No matter how much we want to, whether it's systemic fixing or for an individual person, or the housing system or whatever that may be, like that's hard. That's hard on this side as well, right? Like as an advocate, as an ally, as a family member and friend, we talked about that. We spoke about that a little bit last episode too. Like we have to take off that fix it hat. How do you both do that?
Yeah, it's hard. I want to say that whenever you come into this movement and you make a decision or whatever impacts you outside of work or what have you, sometimes you come in with that fixer. Like, I want to be the fixer. I want to be the change. And we are, just not in the capacity that we hope for. Meaning, like, we don't have all the tools in the bag and we're like, we got this, we fixed it for you.
I can do everything in
Right.
Yeah.
Instead, it's like, we can be here to tell you what options are available and how to move through the channels, and how we've seen other people meet goals and see what that person wants to meet. So sometimes it takes a step back, is really to step back and be like, hey, I have an idea of how we could fix this.
Hear me out.
But let me tell you what's in the tool bag, and you choose what you want to use. Because I want for that person to feel like they've been empowered, and they're making that choice, and they feel like they know everything that could or couldn't happen.
They carry their own tool bag,
Right.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
All right. So, Amanda, how do you take that fixer hat off? What do you do?
So when I'm meeting with a client, like I said before, I'm just straight up and honest with them. Like, hey, this is what we can work on. This is what we can do. This is what maybe we could call around and maybe get different, other resources within the community. I'm just very open with them. I'm very realistic with them, because I don't want to, they're already going through it, and I don't want to let them down more. But at the same time, I do want to empower them. Like, I'm really big on empowerment. I don't want somebody, to what's the word for it? Disappointed. I don't want to I don't want them to get disappointed, just kind of like give up, because I'm always, I don't want to say pushy, but like I want to empower them. I want them to know, we're going to get through this. It might take some time, and that's okay. So we're going to figure it out, we're going to go through our goals, what we need to get, whether it be, starting off with their social, birth certificate, ID, going on. Yeah, the basic stuff, just the basic, that's the thing about it. Like, we meet clients where they're at, and then, we build from there. So, I mean, it's a process.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, being able to do that every day is incredible, but to really give people the space to make decisions for themselves, that's something we talk about sometimes, where if you've been in a situation, whether that's domestic, sexual violence, anything like that, intimate partner violence, you maybe weren't able to make very basic choices for yourself.
Yeah.
I think you both see that a lot in residential life. Like, what kind of food do you like? What's your favorite color? What kind of shampoo do you want? Do you want to do that? I mean, you guys have tons of examples, but I think that's something really interesting that happens.
I do too. I feel like that we do have clients that once they start to really make some choices for themselves, they realize that some of those things had been taken from them. That their eyes are almost open to, man, I hadn't sat down and had a thought of like, what do I want? What do I need? How do I want to do things, or even those simple things, like you said, what is my favorite food, or I don't want to go do this right now, and I'm going to make that choice.
I can say no.
Yeah, definitely. So
something that came to my attention more recently is the concept of grief, in like grieving the life that you thought you were going to have, in the context of our clients, because we talked a little bit about the perfect victim in our last episode, and kind of this idea that if you don't know anything about this movement, maybe you're thinking, oh, everyone's so grateful and everything's just, they get into the shelter and it all just works out like a movie, which would be lovely, wouldn't it? It'd be so lovely. But the idea too of like the why doesn't she just leave, and all of that stigma that goes through, but the grief that comes with this life you thought, or you had to leave your home and come to a shelter. Like, y'all don't see our survivors, yes, they're happy to be there. Yes, on a baseline, but it's also not, right? There's this sadness in this.
Yeah, definitely. There's a big difference in what the expectation in life was for somebody, you know, and the idea, you know, that you were going to have your own living space, or, you know, ideally you think about somebody coming in for shelter services, what they're really having to give up, you know, their kids' rooms, their toys, you know, the capability of being in your own home. Maybe it wasn't peaceful all the time, or, you know, there's different things that happened, but it was yours. So when you come into a shelter setting, it's really hard, and it's like a grieving process. You're having to almost, it's put in your face that you're losing everything that you had prior to. So it's a really hard transition. I think it would be a hard transition for anybody, you know. So.
Right. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Well, you know, kind of going off of that, so how the way, you know, you both explained really well kind of how it works in residential life, but going a little bit more into that perfect victim myth, for you both, can you share a little bit about what you've seen success look like? I think that's something that can be hard to grasp. Like, what is success, if we can even say that it's a thing, or what is a positive outcome, or what have you seen?
Yeah, I think that we joke about this sometimes in shelter, because success, right? You think like successful is this person is empowered and they've moved out and they got their life together and everything's great. And sometimes in shelter, success is that person got up and took a shower today. You know, I felt good enough to get out of bed and do something. You know, I made a decision that, you know, I'm going to get up and make dinner. I'm going to get up and go outside. Those little success, they're really important sometimes for mental health, just for just making a decision in general. So success is not always what we think it is. Sometimes that itty bitty movement in somebody that's in shelter is really, really profound. And we just don't understand it because we're not in that person's shoes and we're not understanding it. So anything that we get accomplished is success.
Yes.
Okay.
We'll take anything.
Yeah, we'll take the small wins. We take the big wins. Hey, we'll take it.
True.
Because I also think about it as, you know, I think that we think that everybody should be happy, or everybody should have a smile, and everybody, you know, but it's not like that, because somebody's going through something internally, and sometimes that doesn't project outwards. So when we notice that being in shelter with some people and clients and seeing them day to day, and we'll be like, oh wow, you know, so and so looks like they're having a really great day, like that's awesome, you know, they're not upset with us, or and you know, it takes it takes a little bit of time to grieve through whatever they're doing, and then we see a little bit of different and change in people. So I always try to tell everybody that we work with, it's not personal. It's never personal. You know,
true.
So we have to be understanding of that.
Absolutely. Well, Amanda, in your lane as kind of the advocate support, how do you help survivors understand their successes?
A lot of times I feel like, you know, I tell them, you know, you got to give yourself some grace. You know, a lot of times, like, they're so hard, like, they come in, they need to do X, Y, and Z. But at the same time, they came in through a very traumatic time in their life, you know, and it's a lot. Especially, like, you know, coming into shelter, like Tanya said, like, they left their house, they left their bedrooms, they left everything. And that's a lot. Like, I always tell them, like, and I always reassure them, like, you know, I'll have a client upset and stuff like that. And, you know, how my heart goes out to them, and I always tell them, you know, you're stronger than you realize. You know, you're strong, because it takes so much, you know, to leave. It you know, it does.
Yes.
So, you know, I always try to, you know, redirect them and let them know, like, hey, like I said, you know, give yourself some grace, give yourself some time. Like, you're doing the best that you can, you know, for yourself or the kids or whatever it may be, you know.
Do you see a lot of survivors who are like, I want everything fixed right now? I want everything done right now.
Sometimes.
Or is it more like, I don't even know where to go?
It's more that. Okay. It's more that they're lost. Their mind is just kind of like everywhere. And that's okay. You know, of course, like, whenever they come and we do an intake, we let them know, you know, just take a few days to yourself, you know, like, we get it. We understand it's life. You know, we're human just like them. Like, we understand. But a lot of times, yeah, they're a mess because they don't even know where to start. You know, they've been stripped of, you know, like their, you know, decision making, you know, their pride, their, you know, their just pretty much like everything, their independence, you know. And so it's just kind of like building them back up.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think that's great to understand a little bit, right? Because not everything has to roll off the moment you step in the door. I think it could definitely feel like that.
And I think that we have like people that do feel that way when they come in. It's like, okay, I have 10 goals. I'm gonna do all 10 today, and we really have to take a step back and think like it's great if you can accomplish all 10 goals, but are we taking care of you? Because what we see a lot of times is people come in on a mission, and they should, right? Because they want something done. They want to complete something. They've made the decision to leave a situation, and now they want to get out of this new situation. But sometimes we really have to pull ourselves back and think like, we can accomplish all this, but where are we going to be mentally, emotionally, and all those different things after we accomplish that? So it's a lot. It's a long process. So sometimes I really think whenever we talk about shelter, we want to make sure that somebody has already done kind of that other stuff mentally and things, maybe with case management outside of shelter. So that way, when they do come in with that list and those goals, it's because they've already taken care of the mental and the safety planning and emotional and all those good things that need to happen. So that way, whenever we set out on a mission, it happens and it's long term, not short term.
Sustainable success. Yeah,
Definitely.
Okay. That makes sense. I think sometimes it's not considered, right? That part of it, it's just the task needs to be completed.
Right,
but,
definitely.
It's really good. Is it to the detriment of that person? That makes me think, you know, when you have a survivor who maybe was not successful in what they wanted to do, maybe they're back in a place they didn't want to be in, how do you motivate them, encourage them, support them as an advocate in this movement?
It's life. I mean, that happens. You know, stuff like that happens. All we could do is just get up and keep going, keep pushing, you know, keep pushing towards our goals. You know, we did this, you know, it didn't work out. That's okay.
Yeah, this isn't like you make a mistake, then you can't get our services anymore or whatever that looks like. Yeah,
and we see that happen a lot because, like I said, shelter life is hard. Communal living is hard. You know, just in general. You know, everybody has their own personalities. Now you're throwing the trauma that you're going through personally. Then you're talking about guidelines, and then you're looking at different things that are being asked for you to complete, and different things like that. And sometimes it's overwhelming. So you make a decision and you decide that maybe it's not for you, or, you know, you decide to return to something that you're familiar with because maybe you have a little bit more control, or it feels like you, I've heard people say, and, you know, at least I can control that my kids have a room versus having to share a room and, or different things like that. And I understand that, and we respect that, and let somebody make a decision. And then maybe we look at another option besides shelter and look at, you know, maybe you stay in that situation until we can figure something else out. And I know that's hard to hear, right? Because we don't usually hear people say like, stay there in an abusive relationship. But sometimes that's what it is. It's that person needs to make that decision. Maybe they're making a decision that they can control different things in their life and being in there. And that's where the non-residential part comes in. And I think that that's something that people don't know. Like, just because you're still in a DV situation doesn't mean that you can't receive services from us.
Right.
We're still going to safety plan with you. There's still case management. There's still counseling. There's different things that we can do while you're still in that, so that way we can get you out of that with some long-term plan.
There you go. What do you mean? What is safety planning? What do you mean by
Yeah. So safety planning is different for everybody, in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's not like a format. It's really kind of listening to a survivor tell you what's going on with them at that moment, and then using your book of resources and saying, here's the book. These are the options that we have for you to get you safe. Or does that look like going and staying with a family member? Does that look like having somewhere to go when things heighten, or knowing that at 2-3 in the morning you can come to the Purple Door? There's always an advocate available. Does that mean that you're getting your mail sent not to your home for your housing application to come in?
Yeah, something to think about. Yeah,
it just really depends on where that
a new cell phone,
right,
putting some money away. Okay.
Really, just working with that person individually, and them letting us know what it is that the ending goal is, and what that looks like, and then we pull out the book and say, oh, well, we have these options for you, and we can do this way, and we can help this way, and sometimes it takes a little imagination, but it's whatever we can do to get somebody where they need to be.
Well, I know, we know in this movement that the most dangerous time for a survivor is when they decide to leave.
Definitely.
Whether that would be to our shelter or to their own space or a different space. So I appreciate you both sharing kind of that outlook, because that is something we're always considering, right? We don't want to say just leave everything. Just leave them right now, because actually,
it definitely
doesn't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. It's not the Lifetime movie
type
vibe, right? I mean, as much as we wish it could be every time, but
in an hour the problem solved.
Right? Yeah.
No, definitely not.
That's important, but that's hard to consider, because it feels like, okay, if I physically remove you, then it's okay, right? Like our brains kind of go like that. Okay, if I physically remove you from this dangerous space, it's okay, but actually, it's dangerous, and it is oftentimes worth it. But when the person is, as you were mentioning, when the person is ready, because maybe if they're not, and they go back,
it could get worse.
Yes.
And we really,
and that does happen.
Yeah, definitely. And we really need to listen to the person that we're talking to. They're the expert. I know that sometimes if you're in the movement long enough, you're like, oh, we've seen this happen, or I've experienced this. And we really have to make sure that we're not saying, we know what you should do, or you. I think we should remove should.
We should do that,
because that person is going to be the expert. We need to know that they know how things operate for them, what is safe for them, and what they can do, and what's going to make things better. Sometimes we deal with a lot of clients that don't come in and they don't ever file police reports, because they know that's an agitator that will make things worse for them. So we just go over what the options are there, and we go over what a protective order looks like, and what it really can do, and what we need to do, and that it's always there in that little magic bag, and if you ever need it. But if you don't want to go forward with that, that's okay too.
It's okay too. Absolutely. Well, ladies, thank you for sharing with us. Thank you for giving us some insight into the residential program, into successes and hopes for sustainability. Your work is so appreciated. So thanks for chatting with us today.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, and thank you all for watching. Tune in for our next episode of Beyond the Door. See you next time. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic or sexual violence, we are here to help. Our services are free, confidential, and available to everyone. Call our 24/7 hotline at 361-881-8888 anytime, day or night. Stay safe.